Nathan, estate agency in the next 20 years. Talk to me.
Cool, that's a big question. I think we can already see the signs of it, Chris, really. I think we've got emerging models coming out into the marketplace.
So you would call that the online market?
Yes, we can.
Purplebricks and the Yopas of this world?
Absolutely. I think you've got the balance with traditional agency at the moment as people tend to do it. Let's stick with those because people understand that concept. But equally, I think you've also got, as we get more into customer service, and customer service, don't forget, is a big driver at the moment. It's customer service reviews. We do what we do. We're shouting about it. If you look at the whole way the industry is now starting to mirror retail and travel and car industries, etc., it's got to offer more for consumers to be happy with the service level they get. The more you ask for customer service reviews, the more you drive it up, the more you've got to deliver more and more and more and better and better and better. And I think if you look at things like indicators in the market, footfall in offices at the moment is at an all-time low. Is there a requirement necessarily to be on the high street? Is the high street actually an advertising medium? Is it a very functional office? Absolutely. Where is the future? Do people like to deal with an individual, or do they like to deal with a brand? Is that changing? You know, I think you've got more and more now where if you listen to people, very often they will liaise, or they'll actually mention individuals that they've dealt with in an office, and they'll go and see Sarah at this office.
Do you think estate agents in the past have been very guilty of working for the brand and not pushing themselves as a person?
I think that's endemic in the model. I mean, you've got to bear in mind we employ people in this country, so therefore whether you work for British Telecom, whether you work for Joe's Pizza House, or whether you work for estate agents, you are representing that company. What you haven't got in this company is superstars and rock stars of estate agents.
Because in Australia, it's the self-employed or the associate where you keep 60-70% of the fee and the hub gets 30.
Correct.
Do you think that might be a way forward?
I think people are starting to push and develop those models into the UK, and I think that will inevitably happen. I think estate agents in the future will be a very eclectic mix, really. I do think that you will find, as you look at a lot of companies with local property experts and so on and so forth, which you might look at that as an initial structure at the moment and think, well, actually, they're too regionally based. They're not. The more you add in, and the more you reduce those postcode sectors, and the more you start narrowing down, I can see that there are benefits in that model. Really, I think there are massive benefits in the current model of traditional estate agency. How that actually fuses together in the future, I think, will be a very, very interesting story. What I do think is there's enough room for everybody. What I do think is eventually we'll end up somewhere in the middle ground. The interesting thing for me, though, will actually be, will the drive on fees continue to go down, or actually is there not an opportunity for us to look at ways of increasing those levels of fees and justifying ourselves? I think that will need to be an industry-led thing, and I think service is actually, a lot of people are using service to win business. What they should be doing is using service to win additional fee. Because I think the transactional side of a property transaction is functionary. It's the journey, it's the experience.
Is that lack of training, attitude, mindset, all of the above?
I think it's all of the above, and equally don't forget, this is something our industry has come a long way in a very short space of time. It's gone from purely transactional base where, let's be honest with you, you just accepted the result. If you didn't like the service, tough, we got you a sale and that was it. We've now gone to working at ourselves a long, enjoyable journey. We need to now make that exceptional. That's the challenge for the industry, but it's happening at such a fast pace. You've got to bear in mind, retail and car industry, they've been doing this for years. We are trying to scream it into a 10-year gap, effectively. And so new people in the industry are very, very different from people 10 years ago. Now, the danger you've got is the demographic of a negotiator changing? Are they more service than sales orientated? Is that actually affecting companies' progress? I don't know.
Well, I mean, most of the negotiators have always been younger. Mm-hmm. So they've got the millennials. How do we encourage the millennials to want to become estate agents? And when we've got them, actually stay with us?
Yeah, good question. I think you've got a couple of things to bear in mind there. So when we started out, Chris, if you remember, if you were a negotiator, then you would probably earn twice as much money as somebody in a normal profession or normal job. Okay, so at estate agency, attracted people that were very capable because they saw an opportunity to earn a lot of money.
They could talk the talk. We all had our Vauxhall Novas.
And you
shiny
went out
suits,
there, and you
talk the
did
talk.
Correct. And as time's gone by, if you actually look, negotiator basics aren't much different
They aren't, are they?
than they were
They aren't.
15, 20 years ago. The level of fee income may have gone up, but the costs have gone up. So the actual commission being paid to people isn't greatly different. So the level of income a negotiator earns now comparative to the average individual is not at the levels that it was. We were earning twice as much as everybody else. You're not doing that now. You're probably at the average wage. So you're not attracting people into the industry that were go-getters to the same degree. You are still attracting them, not to the same degree. And I think equally, you've got...
Is that because we're letting ourselves be driven down on fee with what we were talking about before? We need to, if we can drive the fee up, we can pay people
Yeah, absolutely.
more.
If you can drive the fees up, what you can do is you can pay people more. You can invest in more services and more.
So have we got to be trained better on how to produce? Well, it comes back to what you were saying before. Produce better service to drive up fees.
It's service and it's focusing on results as well. And I think people worry about the two. It's either service or it's results. Well, it's not. What you've got to do is you've got to use the service to get the results, which is a different mindset.
And what big things can agents do to do that?
I think the most important thing for me is communication. I think one thing we are getting better at is communication, but the most important thing equally is managing expectations. I think one thing that we're very good at is, we'll do this, we're great, we'll do this, and then not quite delivering really. And I think there's got to be a stopgap really. You've got to put in structures and you've got to put in processes to protect your business ongoing really.
Because you did that with Pygott and Crone before you left. You're very a structured sort of guy, aren't you?
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, when we were preparing for this video, you're the first person in about 20 that actually wrote down all the answers and what he was going to say. I mean, I've never seen so much structure.
Thank you, Chris.
But can you help agents with this?
Absolutely. And I think you've got to bear in mind, when you come into somebody's business and you're not actually involved in the nitty-gritty going on, you can actually see very clear paths very often that they don't see, because it's like chipping away at the coalface. You don't realise that actually the seam's going this way and you're still burrowing this way.
Do you think too many MDs are working too much in the business and not necessarily on the business?
I think it's finding the balance. I think the problem is that a lot of agencies now are running on less staff than they used to do. So I think a lot of MDs and business owners are having to get involved in the coalface, which they may have stepped back previously, so they're having to get themselves back into it.
And they probably enjoy it anyway.
I think they do. But it is interesting. I mean, if you pick a lot of MDs of companies and you sit them down and say, right, there's your operating system, just show me how to do it. A lot can't use their own operating systems, and that's nothing wrong in that. What they've done is they've built their businesses up, they've had people that actually are managers and people that are doing all of that day-to-day running of the branch. All of a sudden now that people are getting more involved in their companies again and realising the need to do, a lot of them don't look at an applicant. They don't know the qualification of their applicants. They don't know how the matching facilities work. They don't look at the quality of the valuation requests coming in because they're so busy spinning all the other plates. But actually, it's the quality at the bottom that controls how many plates you need to spin at the top.